Cool beans. What's up, party people, and welcome back to Shots to the Dome. Very special guest for you today. Very old friend, close friend, Steph Lovato. What's up, Steph?
Hey guys, hey Sean.
I am so excited. And I know you and I were talking about it a little bit before actually hitting record. Your husband and I go way back. It's been like a decade now, which is crazy. And then you have been such a close friend to both me and Dayla. And I just wanted to go into a little bit about the relationship because this is like behind the scenes stuff. Dayla first started coaching because of connecting with you, and you were her like first mentor and helped her dive into online coaching. So everyone listening, if you're a Deal Donation client, if you love what we do, the woman that I have on right now is a big catalyst for that.
Aw, thank you. I mean, she would have done it on her own and she was already going that route, but I'm honored to have helped, even if it's just a little bit. And it allows me to be like, oh my gosh, not only because we're friends, but because of that, be like, oh my gosh, I'm just so proud of what you guys have built in your community and just everything. So everyone listening, Sean and Dayla are the best. And I'm not taking credit, but I'm so proud.
Yes, you can take partial credit, and that's really sweet of you, Steph. So diving in, I want to get into a little bit about who you are. So you're an online coach. Are you doing mainly, I know you were doing mainly online, obviously with COVID, that's still the case. Are you doing any sort of like in-person training? And I want to get into like y'all's gym at home here in a moment, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so everything I do is online. My husband, Justin, he's the one who does all of our in person stuff. So we get to work together, but we also are very separate because Sean, unlike you, he has not taken to the online stuff like anything. Like, I can't do it. So he's very good at the face to face, in person stuff. And then I'm more behind the scenes. So everything I do is online and similar to you guys, training, nutrition, working with
Yeah,
the community.
you guys are a great team in that regard. And along with the online coaching, I wanted to get into a little bit of like the personal history because for those listening, Justin and I, he was like one of my best friends when I was out in LA before I got hyper into fitness. And he was like, I didn't really know at the time, but he was going through a breakup. And I was like a guy that he could talk about life things outside of fitness, and we would just get together and like smoke weed and hang out. And then I moved to Texas, and like 6 weeks later, or it might have been like 2 weeks later, y'all met at the gym, and you were visiting from Canada, right? Just visiting for a little bit, and then and it's funny because like if you guys listening, you follow Justin and Steph, which I highly recommend. Justin's a huge human, and you don't necessarily think of those people getting nervous, but he was like super nervous to talk to you, right?
He was like, we had been seeing each other at the gym for, I want to say about 6 weeks. And like, eventually got to the point of like giving the head nod and like he would kind of like position himself closer to me in the gym, and he was always there when I was training because he trained all of his clients out of gold, so he was there the whole day. So like no matter what time of day I could go, he would be there. So like he became a very familiar face and very quickly. But when I hear his side of the story, he'd always say like, oh, I didn't want to go and talk to her. And he like physically positioned himself on a bench next to me, like, which I just thought was a coincidence, of course. But it was like all strategic, and he like struck up this conversation with some guy, like, and it was, he even said he was trying to make himself sound like really cool during their conversation, because obviously I'm right there, I can hear it. But yeah, I think he was pretty nervous, which is adorable.
It is. Yeah, totally. This big like teddy bear. And then I love y'all's story, and like this is what I wanted to get into a little bit, but because you were there on like a tourism visa at the time.
No, I was just here on like an extended vacation. It was for 10 weeks total. And I luckily was just at a point in my life that I can be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go to LA. I was working on a nutrition certification. I just wanted to kind of decide if I wanted to use my undergrad more seriously, and thought the best way to do that would just be to like really immerse myself in like the heart of the fitness industry, which I mean, now it's everywhere, but at the time, this was almost 10 years ago, it very much was LA. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing anything important in Canada. I've had an undergrad for 3 years. I'm still just bartending, waitressing. It's like I think I need to like do something with my life. So I came here and it was just, yeah, it was just an extended vacation, like a productive extended vacation.
I appreciate you mentioning that, Steph, because it's something that we talk about a lot on the podcast and with our Instagrams is getting out of one's comfort zone and diving in. And your story is very similar to a lot of our friends, which I know you guys will eventually meet. For instance, friends Chad and Caitlin, another couple who are online coaches, and Chad and Dayla actually work together with their online coaching company, NLCA, and they were both waiters and waitresses and did the exact same thing. And they were like, we have to do this kind of for ourselves to like put ourselves out of the comfort zone, like see if it's going to work and like, you know, progress towards our dreams. And so I've been very grateful to have people like yourself on who have been examples of that, of the, I'm just going to go immerse myself. I got to give this a shot versus continuing to live a life that we might not be the happiest with, but that's comfortable. So I applaud you for that one. I also applaud you for the way you guys got married, because Dayla and I got married very unconventionally, just invited friend, like family. And I think there were 14 people total, including the photographer. We got married across the river from where we are here in Austin. And people were always like, oh man, like you didn't have to pay a ton for a wedding. You didn't have to put a lot of planning into it. Like, oh my God, how great was that? And I'd love for you to share y'all's story because I think it's equally as cool.
Thank you. That's a super cool story, and it does just make it so easy. But yeah, overall, like going back to first how I actually landed in LA, it you really do have to take risks like that. And like that's coming from me who's I'm not a risk taker. Like I do everything like A through Z. Like Justin very much jumps like straight from A to Z. And he's just like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. He's very impulsive. Whereas I like think things through, but here and there, like you do just have to take a risk. Like you get to a point where you just evaluate your life. And if it's not what you want, you have to do something to change that. Like something that bothers me so much is some like people from home will be like, oh, you're so lucky you get to live there. And I'm like, yes, it's a beautiful place to live. And there might be some luck to it, but like it's not lucky that I was like, you know what, I'm not satisfied with just being a bartender. Like it's a great life to be in temporarily because you make tons of money and it's fun and you can socialize without like always having to go out and drink. But you get to a point where you don't like the life you're living, like you have to take action and change that. So it really annoys me when people say like, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, it's not luck. Like if you wanted to live here, you too could live here. I am lucky that I met somebody and was able to get married because yes, that made the process a million times easier. But the fact that I was still able to meet somebody and meet somebody like Justin, it's also like the position that I put myself in. And so what's funny is when we finally did hang out after seeing each other for 6 weeks in the gym, um, the our first conversation basically was about how both of us think marriage is like so stupid and we would never get married, and we were both just like in a phase of doing whatever we wanted to do and we're working on ourselves. And I'm in LA, I literally knew nobody, but I was there doing what I love to do, studying nutrition. I was prepping for a fitness competition. Like I was just on my own little journey, and so was he. Like you mentioned, he was getting out of a breakup. And so the first thing you do when you're out of a breakup, it's not hunting for the next person. Like you take the time and you learn and you reflect and whatever. So we were both in a position where we didn't need each other, and that allowed us to end up being married. So it irritates me when people say like, oh, you're so lucky. And I know that sounds like maybe insensitive because some people are in a position that's harder to get out of or whatever. But ultimately, my point is like we have full control of our lives. And if there's something you don't like about it, you just change it.
Yeah.
And that was exactly like us getting married. Like we got married because we had to get married in order for us to date each other, essentially. Because if we hadn't gotten married, eventually I would have been deported back to Canada, and then we
You can
couldn't
only
take.
hide for so long.
Yeah, you can only hide for so long. So, like you, like we barely knew each other. We weren't about to throw some major, like conventional wedding, and we were just like, you know what? Let's just go to the courthouse. It cost us $143. My mom flew from Canada. She's like, what? She's like, I have to be there. Like, you're going to get married? Okay, I'm coming. She was like on a plane in a second, got married at the courthouse. I think we invited, like, besides my mom, who was our witness, we invited two other people. And then we went out for pancakes after. So, and then that was, you know what? Like, I can tell the story more proudly now because that was over 7 years ago. But when you tell it at first, people are so skeptical. Like, I had so many friends message and be like, oh my gosh, like, are you pregnant? Like, no. Or like, so many people, you just tell them the story and they kind of roll their eyes and be like, yeah, whatever. Like, good luck. It's not going to work out. So now, fast forward 7 years, it's much nicer telling the story because to me, like, even if we were to get divorced tomorrow, a 7 year marriage is like pretty major success.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, wholeheartedly. A few things. One, statistically speaking, you guys are on the other side. Marriage of 5 years, it's like plus or minus. If it's under five, there's a higher percentage chance that one gets divorced. If it's after five, there's a very low chance that people get divorced. So y'all fucking did it. Also, I remember telling people that story. I thought it was so cool because I knew what type of person Justin was, and you and I hadn't met yet. But when I was telling the story, and I would even tell it when you guys were married for like 5, 6, 7 years, and I was like, yeah, really good friend out in LA. And he met this woman. They got married after like 6 weeks, did some kind of like what we would look at as maybe like a shotgun wedding. And then they're like, oh my God. And they do that eye roll. And then I'm like, dot, dot, dot. They're still married 6 years later. And people are like, oh my God. But I think it highlights that one can take a non traditional route, like not only with, and this is sort of the theme that's coming up in what we're talking about, putting oneself in positions to succeed, even if that's untraditional. So like you were bartending, very traditional, you get out of school, whatever, and you were like, you know what, I want to go create my own luck. So I'm going to go to LA, try this whole thing out. And then all of a sudden opportunities arise. And it's the same thing with getting married the way that we all did it. You know, same thing. I think here in Texas, and you and I were just talking about the price differences. I think it was like $99 to get married in Texas. And we had,
Damn you.
you had Dayla's stepdad. He married us, and so we kind of did on the cheap. And I joke with people that we like made money on the wedding because of people giving us money. But I really like how you've highlighted, Steph, in both the story of getting to Los Angeles and the story of y'all getting married is like kind of creating our own luck. And I agree with you. You know, we're it's how grateful are we? You were born in Canada. I was born in the United States. Like those listening to be in first world countries, and then now, in my opinion, the sort of the it's not like the goal in my opinion is then to use that. It's like we've been lucked out at living in these first world countries that have a lot of assets at their disposal, and so now it's like, what do I want to do with it, and sort of create my own luck going forward. And it seems like you guys have continued to do that with your business. I mean, I Am Built is huge. You guys have a membership site. You're taking the online clients. Justin has in person. I know he's been doing some life coaching as well. And then you guys have like what looks like your own personal Gold's Gym mini in the garage there. So like, I'm just so hyped about what you guys have been able to do together.
Thank you. And likewise to you and Dela. What year marriage are you on?
That's a good question. We've been married for a little over 3 years and we've been together almost 5.
Oh my gosh, so cool. You guys complement each other very well. Like, I know we didn't meet right away when you were in LA, but I did meet you soon after, pre Dela. And even though that was a long time ago, like the Sean pre Dela and the Sean post or current, it's the same person, but almost like you just evolved like tenfold. Like, you guys do so well together. It's so nice to see.
I'm blushing. This is too much all at once. But yeah, you're right. And for those listening, it's like behind the scenes about me, but Steph and Justin knew my ex-wife, and so they knew Sean when I was in a previous relationship, and they know me now. And so it's really cool. And you guys were super supportive. Like same thing. It was really fun for once I realized that I was helping Justin through this breakup before he met you, and like you said, taking that time to heal ourselves. And then when I had my divorce, like y'all were there for me. And Justin was one of the only people who I could talk to at the time. He gave me a lot of good insight and advice. And then like anytime I was out to Los Angeles, even before meeting Dayla and then having Dayla and being married, like you guys were always so welcoming. And I appreciate that. And I kind of want to use that to segue into something else we wanted to talk about, which, I always love the home that you guys create. We try to mimic that with like the vibe. You guys have a very unique space and energy with what you guys create. And being in California, like here in Texas, our gyms opened back up, LOL, but like our Republican governor was like, fuck this, we're not staying closed. Like everything's back open. But in California, the gyms have remained closed for the most part since COVID happened. But you guys, like so many of our clients, have adjusted and bought your own equipment. I knew Justin was throwing out like, does anybody have like 45-pound plates? Let's go get that. So I would love to hear stuff like what you and Justin have done to sort of flip the narrative on COVID and still be able to create a lives that are conducive to y'all's success.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm personally not going to take any credit. Like it was all him. The second the gym closed, he was like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. And like, I'm a lot more passive and I'm like, well, let's just, wait a week, wait a month. Like maybe the gyms are going to open. Like you probably don't need that much. And like, if we had gone my route, we would have been waiting like what, it's 6 months now.
Yeah.
And so he did a very good job of being just like steps ahead of everyone too. Like he'd be like, I'm gonna grab these dumbbells, and then people would be like, where'd you get that from? And they'll go to try and look for it and like completely sold out. Or like the same with we bought an assault bike and like I bought it for him for his birthday, and like I swear a day later, can you send me the link? And it's like unavailable. So he's just been like steps ahead building our gym. And I tease him too because every day he'll be like, okay, I think I just need one more thing and then the gym's going to be done. Like, for instance, it's like always just one more thing. And so half of me is kind of like, oh my gosh, like seriously, another thing. But then I really do like go out there and I look at what he's built and all the stuff we have. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, total props to him. Because if we had done it my way, like I would probably still just be running or just something. So he really was good at just knowing what he wanted. And initially he built it just so we could work out. Like he didn't even think like, oh no, like what am I going to do with my clients? How am I going to make money? None of that. He just did it because he liked it. And so same with the marriage topic and the coming to LA topic. Like it all just comes together. Like if you just do something because you're passionate about it and it's what you like to do, it will flourish into something bigger. And a lot of the times it can even flourish into like a career and just something that makes you money. So basically he built this amazing gym out there for himself and for me and like our friends. And because of that, now he's been able to train all of his clients right from home.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. If you guys have made that like mini Gold's Gym Venice, and it's now like the mini Lovato Gold's Gym, so you guys have been able to bring his clients in, and I see the stories and stuff. I mean, it looks spectacular.
Yeah, he's out there all day. Like he even has people being like, hey man, can I just like pay you a monthly fee to use your gym? Like he's done such a good job. I'm so grateful for that. Otherwise, I don't know, I would be probably pretty like not even just like out of shape, but we would just be bored. Like that's when I think of COVID, or if I'm gonna think of COVID in like 10 years from now, what I think of is us just being in the garage, like working out.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of similar. I mean, obviously the gym's open here in Texas, but it's like it's just really funny how similar we all are as couples, because when it first happened, it was like San Francisco decided to close. And the next day, my parents, who are in their 70s, decided to self quarantine before, they were doing it before it was cool. And so that next day, Dayla and I were like, we should probably take this seriously. And like at the time, toilet paper and paper towels were what everyone was buying. But
Yeah.
thankfully, I was raised in Los Angeles, so I would keep a lot of shit for like earthquakes and natural disasters and like stores being closed. So I was like, oh, we're good with that stuff. So what else do we need? Like, what would continue our lives? And thankfully, we had a friend here in Austin who's also in fitness, and he had family members in Boston, and they were getting hit pretty hard. And he was like, bro, you got to get online now, like get some stuff. And so we ordered the adjustable dumbbells, we ordered a pull-up bar, and then we found locally Fringe Sport, shout out to Fringe, hooked us up with some barbell and plates. And like you said, Steph, very similar story. We were just like one step ahead. Like we had these adjustable dumbbells, and our clients were like, hey, do you have a link for that? And we were supplying a ton of links to DLD Nation, just like anything we found. But you're right, it was like the people who got on it that day got it, and if they didn't, if they missed it, they missed the boat. And so we kind of look at it as going forward in these instances, trying to get past the initial like slap in the face and then quickly adjust to like, okay, how can we make this more conducive to our growth and our goals and continue to push forward in that way, and then relay that to clients. So I imagine with what you and Justin have been able to amass in the gym, that's something you've been able to help your online clients out as well, right? Because I imagine they're all over the country and some have gyms open, some have gyms closed, but were they able to adjust and sort of get that same mindset?
Yeah, I think it did. And even us, like, we were pretty good at adjusting overall, but I feel like we did hit a little bit of a slump, even if it was maybe even just a matter of days of being like, oh shit, like, is this our new reality? And so, same thing with clients. Like, I noticed a lot of people kind of just were like, nah, like not doing so well with their training, or like, it was maybe more so just waiting, like waiting to see what was going to happen. But during that waiting, it was like some negativity or like a lot of comfort food. And this is kind of just a trend I've noticed, like overall in the world. And then people
Mm-hmm.
kind of, they do accept it. And once you reach that acceptance, that's when like the curve starts to go this way, and you're like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool, and I'm gonna do this and this and this and this, and okay, like I actually feel like complete shit now from eating so bad, like it's time to get myself together. And so it was, I think I'm grateful to be in the role of a coach, because it's hard to let myself go down that hole, because I need to be a role model for other people. So it very quickly snaps me into being like, okay, this is reality. Let's adjust. Let's do what we have to do, while keeping everybody else positive, because I feel like that's my duty as a coach. So my clients did a really good job. And even when we did go through the phase of having gyms open like very temporarily, or my clients in other states who their gyms are already open, I've noticed so many people just having adopted this lifestyle permanently. Like almost all of my clients are still doing at home stuff, even
Mm-hmm.
though they have access to a gym. And it's made my job 1,000 times harder, but it's so nice to see people just realizing like, wow, I can do so much with so.
Yeah, exactly. And I also know, Kyle, please cut out the, I don't know if there's any like, because it's like freezing for me every now and then, and so I'm sure it's freezing you for you, Steph.
It did. It just froze. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to edit all this stuff out. But yeah, we've noticed the same. I've had, even here in Texas with gyms open, there have been so many clients who are like, so I now have, 5 pieces of equipment in my garage, and they're like, I'm just going to clean out my garage and make that the gym and make it more convenient for me. Same thing with hitting macros. We noticed that in the early parts of quarantine, all of a sudden macros were getting hit like this because we would talk to clients and they would say, well, I'm not distracted by the In-N-Out or the Chick-fil-A on the drive home, and I have way more control over what I eat. Because like you said, Steph, so many people, it's the joke, right? Like the COVID-15, COVID-20, people gaining weight. This is a great segue into the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, which is gut health, and how eating like shit not only affects our physical progress and like progress towards our physique goals or our health goals, but it also greatly impacts everything in our body. And you are, in my opinion, the master of gut health. You've put out multiple products that are meant to help people. You have sort of this like 14-day cleanse, which I want to get into, but I kind of wanted to start with the science behind the gut being almost like a mini brain, right? And the brain is actually what, like the gut talks to the brain, and then that's the brain then makes decisions. I would love for you to go into a little bit of that.
Exactly. So I think what you're referring to is like the gut brain axis, it's called. So if
Thank you
anyone
for
wants like
that.
a deep, in-depth explanation, give that a Google, gut brain axis. But basically, yeah, like picture it as your gut being the center of everything. So essentially, we eat food, goes from our mouth through our body into the toilet. And ideal situation is that food travels through your whole gastrointestinal tract, like uninterrupted. You absorb the nutrients you need, and that's about it. But reality is that food travels through our GI tract, but along the way, it's disrupting your mood, it's disrupting your sleep, it's disrupting your skin. It's just literally affects everything. And so if your gut isn't functioning the way that it's supposed to be functioning, life can be chaotic. And it really, like, the side effects range from everything you can think of, like including mood, including like everything I said, sleep. Honestly, it's just everything, like even your digestion. So yeah, like gut health is central to just having a healthy overall being.
Yeah, and like I know you've in your history like improved your skin a lot, and I know that skin complexion, like I grew up with acne, and as soon as I started to eat more cleanly and like recognize certain things that were exacerbating it, like dairy, all of a sudden my skin cleared up. And it wasn't like I went out and got some sort of medication or got put on Accutane, like it was just simple dietary changes. Same thing with Dayla right now. Like I'm sure you saw her story. She's been working through some health issues related to like stress and overworking and stuff, which is very easy for entrepreneurs to fall into. And now a lot of what she's doing, it's not like, yes, we are going on more walks and there are these like physical things that we're doing, but her coaches have said, hey, take these supplements, like, hey, let's start to avoid dairy or be careful there. Let's start to eat more of these foods and start from sort of the inside out with the gut. And so what are some, like I mentioned dairy, you know, what are some other sort of like inflammatory foods that can lead to these negative results, like you said, like impacting on mood?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about, because there can be many things and stress is one of them, but we'll go through kind of the categories. And so, like, some foods of what not to eat because they cause inflammation essentially are dairy, like you said. And these are just like very broad categories, pretty much. Like some people can digest dairy fine and they're okay, but for the most part, dairy is a very common culprit. Same with gluten. And then any like refined and processed foods, alcohol, and caffeine. Like, let me just give you five. Those are five main ones that, like, obviously we're not ever going to avoid them completely. Like, I have a cup of coffee right here. But if you wanted just like a quick five things of what you shouldn't eat if you're noticing like bloating and indigestion and just anything related to digestion, if you wanted like five things of like to avoid, minimize, let's keep it at that. So dairy, gluten, like processed refined foods. And so that includes like artificial stuff. Like a good example is like a diet coke, or like if you, or even just like, you know, a good common example in the fitness world is, let's say like that, I don't even know if this still exists, but similar to Arctic Zero. Remember the like no sugar, no whatever ice cream?
Yep.
Like, it's great from a fitness standpoint because it is low macros, but from a digestion standpoint, there are chemicals in there and like artificial sweeteners that can just disrupt your gut and the whole process and then lead to adverse health effects. So I'm not saying like don't eat ice cream, but if you wanted an alternative, you can do like a whole food coconut ice cream. So let's say it's made with like coconuts, dates, honey, etc. So just basically like aim for something that's whole foods, simple, natural ingredients versus like the refined and processed stuff. And then alcohol, like that's a given. It's not good for you. We're not going to ever avoid it completely because it's fun to socialize, but that's on the list of something you can minimize. And then caffeine. Coffee is great, and I'm personally addicted to coffee, so I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but those are like five things that would be good to reduce. So those are foods that you should avoid, minimize. And so some foods that you can incorporate that are great for your gut would be the obvious, like lots of fruit and veggies, because it gives you your like pre and probiotics. And so like in your digestive tract, picture it as an ecosystem. And so you have good bacteria and you have bad bacteria, which the bad is natural. Like we all have a combo, but you just never want the bad to outweigh the good, because then that's when you start having gas or like a distended stomach or
Right.
just whatever. And so by eating like the fruits and veggies, you're getting a lot of like prebiotics, probiotics, basically like the fibers. So you can even include like some legumes, just high fiber, like healthy foods. So that's one thing that you can include. Also water, like drink lots of water. One trick I like just to ease digestion overall is beginning my day, instead of with coffee, do a glass of lemon water. It's like just great and like nice and alkaline and cleansing, and then have your coffee. So it's like you can still enjoy these things, but if you incorporate the good stuff, at least like your good bacteria and like pro digestion will be outweighing the bad bacteria and like all the digestive issues that you could be coming across if you were to just be eating the kind of bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like you mentioned, Dayla being stressed and overworked, which is common amongst so many people in society nowadays. And so that's another thing to kind of pay attention to, is just do what you have to do to like ease your stress. Because if you're stressed, your body is not producing the proper digestive enzymes needed to digest your food. And then again, going through this GI tract, if you have undigested food, that's going to cause like a whole like all the chaos. And so anti-stress techniques like go out in nature, take a walk, even while you're eating, like just eat very mindfully and chew your food thoroughly and deep breaths, like just all the anti-stress techniques. Don't overwork yourself, which is way easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
funny. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go.
Well, I was going to say, first off, so my mom was correct, like everything in moderation, because the dairy, like you said, alcohol, coffee, we love those things. And as humans, even on a fitness journey, like we still want to enjoy some of that. And I was joking with Dayla when she started to go on this journey to lower her stress and improve her internal health. I was like, I would like nix coffee at the end. I was like, do everything else first and just like bring coffee down a little bit, but don't eliminate it. Like if you do everything else and it's still fucked up, like then get rid of coffee, like last resort type shit. But something else that you mentioned, Steph, which I loved, was getting stressed. And stress for us now is the same in our minds and in our brains and in our bodies as the stress thousands of years ago. And it's basically the fight or flight response. And in a fight or flight response, everything shuts down, right? Because we're too busy running away from the leopard that's chasing us to like worry about going to the bathroom or like digesting certain things. Again, sort of pointing out that a lot happens in the gut. And so, like you were saying, if you're too stressed, it is going to have an adverse effect on what's going on in your gut. Like it's topical for me, and yesterday was like Kobe day, but when Kobe passed, I was very negatively impacted and I cried for like 2 days. And then TMI alert, but my shits were like out of control for a few days. And Dayla was like, yeah, it's because you're so stressed and like sad and all this stuff. And it is interesting to see how the issues materialize. But I like how you pointed out there are ways to counteract it. And like those people who want to have ice cream still, like there's replacement foods that they can have, or you pointed out fruits. And that's something that Dayla's been having a lot, foods that have high fiber. That was something else I was very grateful that you said, because we tell our clients, DLD Nation, who have the bloating and gut health issues and the poor digestion, like, hey, drink more water. Hey, let's make sure your fiber's up. Hey, we should probably stay away from gluten, dairy, alcohol, or like limit those. And then all of a sudden things start to improve. Outside of the foods, are there any sort of supplementation or supplements rather that you use or that you recommend for your clients that you've seen good results with?
Yeah. So my number one, and I think this is my number one because it's great for gut health, but then it's also great for like the fitness world. So it's kind of a two-in-one, is I love supplementing with glutamine. And so if you think of it like what it does in fitness, it just helps kind of repair and like strengthen your muscles. And it does the exact same thing to your gut. And so like your gut lining is a muscle. And so it just helps strengthen and repair your whole GI tract. Because I mentioned before, like if that food is not traveling from A to B uninterrupted, that's when you have problems. And so think of it like a tube. So basically, like your gut, it's like a mesh, let's say. And so it's permeable, but not too permeable. Like you want the nutrients to be able to go through, but you don't want like chunks of food to be able to go through, because that's when it attacks like your immune system, attacks your nervous system, attacks your bloodstream, and whatever. Like I said, it just literally affects everything. And so glutamine is great because it just strengthens that mesh, and then the permeability is less and less. And so you can still absorb your nutrients, but you're not absorbing like those undigested food particles that are going to cause disruption. So glutamine is a great one. I like to supplement with pre and probiotics. Not necessary, like you really can get it through food, But if you're noticing like you just need some extra support, it's worth a try. Like for some people, it might not do anything. Other people might be like, wow, I started taking a probiotic and now I can digest everything. So it's a good one on the list to just do kind of in general. And then,
Would that sort of, not to interject, but to interject, the probiotics, would that almost be like green supplements as well?
yeah, the greens you could do. Like the ish, like the prebiotic comes more from the fiber. So like the greens powder, I think you've removed the fiber. So that's good for like the added vitamins and minerals, but you would want to do something more fibrous. So even like a psyllium husk, or you can get a blend with like a chia and flax seeds, and that's a great prebiotic. And so basically, like the difference is prebiotic feeds the probiotic. And so the probiotics is like the healthy, good gut bacteria you have in your gut. And in order for it to thrive, you need to be feeding it. It's kind of like a fertilizer and like a flower. So you can take probiotics, but if you're taking probiotics and all you're eating, let's say, is meat, like people on carnivore diet or whatever, you're not feeding your probiotics anything because they feed off of the fiber. And so it's nice to take them together. But like I said, you can get it from food. But I think if I were to pick like top 3 supplements for gut health that are just common, you can go buy in any store, would be like a glutamine, because it's also great for fitness stuff, and then some pre and probiotics.
Gotcha. And is this what you have in your 14-day cleanse? Like, is a lot of what you're talking about kind of what you put your clients on? Like, I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it is actually, and then some. So if I were to just like throw a few more names out of like good digestion supplements, you can use like a aloe vera. Either like you can even drink it or like do it in supplement form, or like slippery elm is another one. There's also really common, and I don't know how to say it. It's like D something 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 licorice. It's basically like a part of a licorice root. But so in the cleanse, it comes with 3 supplements. One's a magnesium powder, and then the other 2, it is like a blend of everything I just talked about, basically.
Awesome. What was the catalyst for you? Because this is stuff that, and this is like my bone to pick, but it's not taught in schools. Like we have to go out and learn this on our own. And so for instance, years from now, Dayla is going to be so well versed in lowering stress and having that not impact her body and helping out clients. So what was the catalyst for you to learn so much?
It was definitely my acne, for sure. Like I've had acne since I was in 4th grade, which you're what, like 13? And so like, of course, those years, it's like, oh, whatever, like puberty, normal. So fast forward to I'm now 32, and like finally, it's only been a couple years that I've been like relatively acne free. But even still, I'll get like a major breakout and I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to be that person who's 75 and still have acne. But it was definitely my battle and struggle with acne that I've endured for decades. And
Hmm.
so tried the Accutane. You're lucky that you didn't have to go down that road because it was rough. Tried antibiotics, literally tried everything that any doctor, like any like dermatologist, endocrinologist, like I approached it from so many ways that finally I'm like, there's got to be more to this. Like it's something I'm eating, or it's hormone imbalance, but even the medication they're giving me for that, it's not working. So like I should be able to balance my hormones just more naturally.
Hmm.
And
So
so
like,
like
go for
yeah,
it.
I was gonna say it has taken years, but with like the whole acne battle, I'll still give the most credit to just food and supplements.
Hmm.
It's literally has taken away my acne, and it was such a battle, like so much trial and error. Like I've at times felt like I was trying everything, and I've even tried so much stuff that I then approached it from the complete opposite end and was like, you know what, I'm going to do nothing. I'm not going to wash my face, I'm not going to take supplements, I'm not doing anything. And like that didn't even work. But I've just felt like I've always been on this mission to essentially cure my acne. And finally, like I said a couple years, but it's probably only been a year that I can finally be like, I don't consider myself as having acne anymore.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations, because I'm right there with you. It was like around the same age. I was probably like 11 and 12, and Dayla really helped me out. Part of it was diet, and I'm glad that we talked about that as it relates to gut health and changing what we're eating to then change how our complexion is. But she also did a ton of research, and she found this oil, basically, which is like counterintuitive, but I was with in concert to changing my diet using that. And I was 29 or 30. Like I was 29 when Dayla and I met, and I'm probably like 30 when I started that. And I just turned 34. And I joke with her that she like fixed my face. And even though I sometimes wake up and have a whitehead or something, it's like nowhere near what it used to be. And a lot of times I can pinpoint, like Dayla pointed out, once we got back from vacation, it was like hard for us to get out of the vacation mode. So we kept going out for froyo, and you get smacked in the face with work coming back from vacation. I started to break out a little bit, and Dayla was like, remember, we've been having a lot of dairy, like you've been eating a lot of dairy, you might want to like back that down and then see the positive results. But you and I can share in that, like I'm fingers crossed it, but we'll be in our 70s and I'll get a pimple, I'm sure, with you. It's unavoidable.
I don't wish acne upon anybody. It's such, oh, it's like, and I have so many scars too, which might, like, maybe they should bother me, but when I see my acne scars, I just am reminded of like the mission that I was on for decades and now finally barely get pimples, that I'm like, I love these scars. Like it just reminds me that like I finally conquered acne. Knock on wood that it never comes back, but
Yeah,
it's
but you conquered it how it used to be. And I really love that perspective. Like I'm going to use that because yeah, my parents got horrible acne when they were kids, and so they sort of primed me, and they were just like, it's never going to go away. And so I guess I just got used to it. And it's really funny because people will point out like, oh, you have really nice teeth, or like obviously with working out and like being a competitive swimmer early on. And it was a conscious choice because I was like, my parents have told me I'm going to have to deal with this fucking acne for the rest of my life. And so what else can I control? Because I can't control this. I can't figure it out. So like, what else in my life can I do to sort of like make up for that? Part of it was humor too. And I think that's just growing up in Los Angeles, like in the public school system, you kind of have to be funny to like not get your ass kicked, but at least back in the 90s. So yeah, I love that perspective of like the scars are reminding you like how far you've come. And then the payoff is so huge because now you get, yeah, the last 20 years have kind of been sucky from the point of getting acne, but now for the rest of your life, you don't have to deal with it how you used to.
exactly. And not only that, but now I've learned so much just from my personal journey that I really can share it with so many people. Like I just got a new client yesterday and she explained her acne and I'm already just like I know exactly what to do. Like you're not going to have acne in a few months. Like I can pretty much guarantee it. So yeah, because it is one of those things that you can go to a million doctors and like they don't know anything about it. Like technically there's no cure for acne if you ask a doctor, but like they just don't know anything. And if you a funny story actually, I had just done, this was maybe 2 years ago, I did a 5-day juice fast and I had never done one before. It was my first one. And I did it actually because I had a heat rash like all over my back and chest, which like luckily my acne was only on my face. Like I didn't get it on my back. So for me having this rash, I was kind of like, seriously, like what the hell? Like now what is this? And I'm like, tried a million things, like topically, whatever. Like, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe my body is just telling me like I need to cleanse. And I had also been getting some hives, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, you know what? This is a good time. Like, I'm gonna quit coffee for 5 days, just drink a bunch of juices, and like, let's see what happens. It can't hurt. So I had made my dermatologist appointment already, and of course, you have to make it like 2 months in advance because they're so booked. And by the time I saw her, I was like only 2, 3 days like post fasting. Rash completely cleared up in those 5 days. Like I'm not even exaggerating. I took before pictures, after pictures,
Wow.
completely cleared up. And so I got there and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, you look amazing. What have you been doing? And I was like, you're not going to want to hear my answer. And I told her I just did a fast and she seriously looked at me like I was from another planet. Like, Western medicine doctors, some of them are starting to get on board, but for the most part, like they don't connect any of our issues with what we're eating. Like for me to say to her, I fixed my rash by fasting. And so basically, like you're getting rid of the heat from inside of your body. Like it takes heat to digest your food. Even drinking caffeine, like not even just because it's hot coffee, but the caffeine like raises your metabolism, gets your whole body like kind of revved up, that it's creating heat internally. And so for me to explain to her, like I cleared my whole rash away by just eating these cooling foods and giving my digestion a break, which essentially allows the rest of my body to heal. Like if we're spending all of our energy just constantly trying to digest food, you don't heal in other areas of your body. So anyways, whatever. She just looked at me like I was freaking nuts, and just said like, oh yeah, like I said, I don't need to be here because my rash went away, but I figured I would come in case like I took pictures of like, if you have any insight or I don't know, maybe give me a prescription just in case in the
Sure.
future I don't have to fast every time. She's like, oh, I really would have just like given you a topical steroid and that's that. But yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, doctors just don't connect it. Like they're starting to get more on board. Like once I had seen her and she gave me an antibiotic and I'm like, so should I be taking probiotics with this? And she laughed and she's like, that's one thing I'm up to date with. She's like, yes, take your probiotics.
Yeah, it reminds me of something my grandfather used to say is he would remind us that doctors are practicing, that's their practice and they're practicing on humans. And I agree with you, Steph, that it's funny with Dayla's issue. She didn't run right out and see a doctor. Like she connected with nutritionists that we know, registered dietitians that we know, not only on our team in DLD Nation, but also in fitness in general. And I was joking with my dad, it might be the way to go about things going forward. So like somebody comes to you with this issue and they're just fed up. Like you said, that in big cities, it takes a couple weeks to go see somebody. And on top of that, like you said, they're just going to give you a topical, some sort of pharmaceutical that is going to be a Band-Aid, let's just be honest, versus starting and within and then working your way out, which may be a little bit more challenging. Like I know Dayla has like protocols that she has to follow, et cetera. And it's not just, oh, I put this cream on or I take this pill once a day. It's like a holistic change to the health, but then you get long lasting benefits. There was something that you mentioned, I wrote a note, fasting, and how that's something else that can, like intermittent fasting can help the digestive system, right? Because like you said and I know you guys are big animal lovers, whenever you go to the vet and the dog's sick or the cat's sick, they're like, we'll just pull food away for a little while. And so is that sort of accurate for humans as well, that fasting can have these gut health and digestion benefits?
I'm going to say yes, and that's because I've experienced it firsthand. But first of all, I want to do disclaimer that I'm like not trying to hate on Western medicine. It definitely has its time and place, but I do agree with you that it's very band-aid and we just need to kind of do it together, like heal from the inside and out. But anyways, back to fasting. So I think 2 years ago now, both Justin and I got hepatitis A from traveling. And basically, you're just drinking water with poo in it, basically.
Right.
It's like from poop particles, and then it's just the hepatitis are like an attack of the liver. And so, of course, I don't know what it is. And I spent like 2 weeks so sick, like every symptom you can think of, just amplified. And for 2 weeks, like on and off and on and off. And so finally, I'm like, I need to get myself like to the emergency room or something. Like I have no idea what's going on. And like, of course, I'm thinking like, because I'm throwing up and just everything. Like I need to eat and I need to get some fluids in me so I can like manage my electrolytes, and I need to eat because like my stomach is empty and I'm hungry, or I should be hungry. Anyways, I quickly learned that every time I tried to eat, it would just make everything so much worse. So fast forward like a few days in the hospital, and
Wow.
I not unintentionally, they didn't feed me for 48 hours. And that was because they were thinking it could have potentially been a gallbladder issue. And so if it was, I would have needed surgery, and I can't have food in my stomach for surgery. So they don't feed me anything. And I'm seriously just sitting around in the hospital doing a million tests. And like within a day of me being there, and I'm convinced it's because I was finally like starving. Like I couldn't even drink. I'm like, I feel completely fine for the first time in like over 2 weeks.
Right.
Um, and so now just like having done that whole experience and looking back, it makes me be like, if I'm ever super, super sick, I'm just gonna fast. Like I'll drink water. That was a little extreme in the hospital, but I'm just gonna fast for a day, like let my body heal itself instead of spending that energy trying to digest this food. And I like, I'm sure it's not gonna be a cure-all for every single disease, but it will be on my list of to-dos. Like if I get sick, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna eat anything. Drink
Right.
like bone broth, like just drink like veggie juices, lots of water. But I agree, exactly your example of a dog. Like if a dog is sick, the last thing it wants to do is eat.
Yeah, and we're animals, you know, and I know you and I and Justin De La vibe on this point, but we're a part of this earth. It's humans will sometimes look at like, oh, it's you know us, and then the rest of the fucking animals on this planet, but we're still sort of have to abide by the same rules. And on the flip side, we can take advantage of some of those things, like you said, a dog doesn't want to eat. Excuse me, when they aren't feeling the greatest. What are some? Do you have like a list of books or other resources that people could access to like learn more about gut health?
I do. I have two bookshelves right beside me, and they're full of them. I think I'll give you maybe like my top three. And then I actually have like one of the Instagram highlights on my page with like nutrition books that I recommend because there's a bunch in there. But just off the top of my head, there's one I really enjoyed reading. It's called Get Off Your Acid.
Ooh,
Author, where is it? It is right beside me. I don't know. I have way too many to find it, but Get Off Your Acid. That was a great one. And it's an easy read too. Like it's not scientific. Second, there was one that was pretty good. Like it got the whole general point across about just gut health and digestion. And it also goes into like food combining and just whatever, a ton of information in another easy read. It's called The Beauty Detox. And so her body isn't putting all of its effort towards digestion, you're going to be beautiful, basically. Like your skin will be able to radiate, your hair can grow, your nails can grow, whatever. That was a good one. And then let me give you one more. Let me see. Oh, there was a really great one. I think it's here.
also, as Steph is looking through her bookshelf, I think you're
Yeah.
probably like Dela having to like reach around plants because I'm seeing like relatively similar looking foliage in the
Yeah.
background as what we have in our apartment.
Tons of plants. Okay, the one I was going to tell you, I can't find it. It's actually tiny and it's a quick read. I read it on like a 2, 3 hour plane ride, but I'm pretty sure it's called The Gut Brain Connection. That was amazing. I loved it. It's also like on my Instagram. And then I'll give you one more because I found it while I was looking for that one. But it's called Allergies, Disease in Disguise. And it's about allergies, but they're saying in here like how the underlying cause of allergies is your gut health and
Mm.
poor functioning digestion. So that's another really great one, just if you want to learn about all of it.
Yeah, that is a great one because Texas. So we were talking before we started recording about California and Texas. The rent is too high in California to have allergies. The rent is lower in Texas, and we do get allergies, and there's always some sort of pollen in the air. So that one may be one that I pick up or recommend that Dayla grab because we got back from Mexico and she was like, I'm definitely getting hit with allergies, which is just normal, but it'd be cool to have an informed approach to hopefully remedy that.
Exactly. Yeah, and they all kind of like gut health seems complex, but once you read enough books and you kind of just break it down, like it's not as overwhelming as it seems. It's just basically like do your due diligence, like take the time to just really improve your gut, which could take 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, and just being on a like restrictive, proper diet. And then it's like a small short-term sacrifice. And then like the rest of your life is just going to be so much better. You're not going to be bloated. Like you're not going to get PMS all the time. Your skin's going to be nice. Like it is just a short-term commitment and it's not an easy process at all. Like again, I'm here with my coffee. Like it's not an easy process to kind of just really commit fully. but long term, it's so worth it.
I appreciate you saying that, Steph, because it's similar to a fitness journey, right? Like, excuse me. I was just answering a DM from a client who she's been working with me for 8 months. Her transformation's insane because she paid attention to her macros, hit the gym, did everything that we asked of her. And it was 8 months of her life, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. And now she has the tools and the knowledge, the education to stay fit and healthy. And it's the same thing with gut health. Like you're saying, 3, 6, maybe even a year, 3, 6 months, 12 months to improve gut health. But the payoff is so great versus people who are like, oh man, like I might have to spend 6 months on this, but it's like, hey, it's 6 months for the rest of your life. It's 6 months to clear up your skin. It's 6 months to get rid of the gut health or get the digestion issues, or like you said, PMS symptoms, bloating, etc. So I really appreciate you touching on the timeline of it all and how, as a percentage of our lives, it's super duper small.
Exactly. Like I've literally calculated the percentage for some clients who are like, oh, I can't stick to a diet for like 1 week. I'm like, do you really want me to send you that calculation? It is like the smallest fraction of time. Like you really can do it. And then sometimes it even takes like such a kind of aggressive shift in their mindset to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like this is so much easier than I thought. And so yeah, it definitely is a commitment. Like gut health stuff is not easy, but it can be enjoyable and it's always worth it.
Right. Yeah. Something we talk about is like choosing your hardships. So it's either choosing the hardship now of learning and applying and doing versus the hardship of decades from now dealing with health issues that maybe could have been remedied early on. Um, I could go on forever with you, Steph. I definitely want to have you back for another one, but want to be conscious of your time. How can people reach you? How can they interact with you and connect with you?
You can always reach me through Instagram. So my handle is at Steph J Lovato. And then from there, you can see like my email and our website and whatever. But I'm always in my DMs, or if you're an email person, I love emails. And my email address is youarebuilt, spelled out normal, at gmail.com.
And just to highlight that, Justin and Steph's company is I Am Built, which is it's like a derivative design. It's like I am built for the gym, I'm built for gut health, I'm built for positivity, whatever the case may be, which I think is super cool. Also, don't forget to check out Steph's Instagram and the Saved Story series. I'll link your handle in the show notes and we'll have some other goodies there. But anything else before signing off?
No, just thank you so much for having me. That was fun. And like you, like we probably could talk for hours, but it's been an awesome hour. And thanks for everyone who listened. And yeah, it's so nice to see your face.
Awesome. Well, hold on. Once I stop recording, you and I will still be on. I wanted to touch on a couple things, but past that, thank you guys for listening. This is another episode of Shots to the Dome.